This special edition Gracie Breakdown is brought to you by the all-new Series 2 Pearl Weave Gracie Gi. Check it out at gracielifestyle.com.
How to defeat multiple attackers. Many of these people out there don't think it's possible. And especially with Jiu-Jitsu, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. In the traditional, in the very simplistic sense, you guys may be right. If you see Gracie Jiu-Jitsu as simply a set number of techniques, the majority of which are close quarter grappling techniques, then it totally makes sense why you think with Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, you cannot defeat multiple attackers. But if, like us, you see Gracie Jiu-Jitsu as a collection of combat principles, then it's 100% possible to defeat multiple attackers. The most important principle being maximum effectiveness with minimal effort. Efficiency on the highest level. In a situation against multiple attackers, what's the number one objective? Go home safely. Get home. Don't get your face bashed in and wake up in a pool of your own blood. That's the objective, if we can deem one. And to reach that objective of going home safely without getting your face broken into the ground, there are absolutely things you can do that adhere to the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu mindset and way of things that we're going to teach you guys today. Assisting me, he's very famous, you guys already know him, Brian T. City Ortega. If you don't know where his nickname comes from, look him up. Also famous from the Bubba Gracie video. And here he is. And I invited Brian not only because he's one of our most dedicated students and effective instructors here at the Gracie Academy, but because he's been there. And we would be lying if we said that he hasn't had his fair share of altercations in the hood. So it's been fascinating because Brian had what we would call somewhat of a rough upbringing in where he lived and the things he had to go through. And we're glad that he's been able to find his way out of that. And it's kind of cool now because looking back, he has a lot of experience that has proven very useful in the discussions here at the Gracie Academy. And he will share those with you guys today. Before we get into the actual strategy, these principles of defense against multiple attackers, we want to show you two case studies that will help us illustrate our points that we're going to be discussing today. The first situation here is happening somewhere on a freeway. It looks like an LA freeway, but you never know, where all you see is the footage of these two guys' cars pulled over. Someone drives up and films it on their phone, and one guy gets out of the car, a much bigger guy gets out of, they're both out of their car by the time we get there. One guy's much bigger in a red shirt on the right-hand side, and another group of three men were in the other car, smaller guys, but three guys nonetheless. And you'll see how things evolve. We want you guys to pay particularly close attention to the body language of the bigger guy, the one guy by himself, who we're assuming is going to be us if we find ourselves in a multiple attacker. We're not going to assume we're going to be the three against the one. So look at the body language of this bigger guy, and then look at how things pan out. And it's pretty bad. Viewer discretion is advised. Since we know that it's possible that some of our younger students might be watching this, we cut out the portion where the guy was laying down at the end there after he got knocked out, and the attackers, or the three guys, were soccer kicking him in the head basically while he's on the ground, even while he's unconscious. It was totally unnecessary, and we cut that out, but you can look it up if you want elsewhere. It's crazy. The second situation here, we'll talk about that one in a second. The second situation we want you to watch is a situation that took place in Michigan not too long ago, where actually a friend of the Gracie Academy, Steven Crowder, who's a comedian and a Fox News correspondent, went to a kind of a protest rally in Michigan where union workers were protesting the Proposition 2, votes or no votes on Proposition 2 at the recent election, where Michigan is now a right-to-work state. Now, I'm not very political and I don't really know the details about this, but all I know is that union workers hate this right-to-work concept because it gives normal people the ability to get jobs without joining unions, where the unions want everyone to have to join the unions. And Steve Crowder went to this rally or this protest as kind of a protester to the protest. He was there to say, hey, why shouldn't people have the right to get their own jobs and work freely and do what they want? So you're going to see a situation where there are very irate protesters here. And basically there's about 2,000, I spoke to Steve, he said there are about 2,000 people there, and maybe 100 people who were for the right to work and were kind of protesting the protesters. And these irate union workers were being very aggressive verbally. They were having exchange of words, and Stephen was there making his interview and trying to get information and really see why people shouldn't have the right to work freely. And it got to a point where one guy trips in the crowd, one of the union workers, gets up and starts swinging wildly. What he does connect, he catches Stephen with I think a right, but left. Pay particularly close attention to how Stephen deals with the situation, and we'll talk about this after the fact as well. Check it out.
What is it about right to work that you oppose so much?
What I oppose about right to work is because it's the freedom to freeload. They can suck all of the parasitical benefits and the hard wages that unions have negotiated, and they get it for free.
Already destroyed one tent. Leave the tent alone.
Get the out of my face!
Don't tear down the tent.
Get the out of my face!
You hurt a lady in there.
You're addressing me. I ain't hurt nobody. You hurt the out of my face. Back the up.
Stop tearing down the tent.
Back the up.
Okay. You just assaulted me. He's got a gun! We don't want anybody to get hurt.
I'll kill a motherfucker with a gun! I've killed plenty of motherfuckers with a gun!
So from these two videos, there is so much to learn. It's crazy. And we're going to discuss much of that today. This idea of dealing with multiple attackers is something that we do talk about often here at the Gracie Academy. You know, people ask about it. We have like philosophy class where we discuss strategies and whatnot. But it's something that we've kind of avoided discussing outside the academy simply because when an attack like this happens, and the defensive strategy for a particular attack is usually so specific to that exact scenario that we didn't want to go out there putting techniques like a lot of other martial artists do. They say, well, yes, if you have three guys, you're going to poke one, kick one, and spinning back fist the other guy, and everyone just drops like flies. You know, or you see in the movies where you can have 50 guys and you do the perfect punch and kick, and they walk towards you in a perfect line, making it easy to knock everybody out. Real life is not like the movies, my friends. The moral of the story, we didn't want to teach a technique that would go out, and then if the circumstance changed, the technique would fail. But what we've gotten to here at the Gracie Academy is a set of 3 universal principles of defense for multiple attackers, but they're also true for a single attacker. So it's almost like the 3 universal principles of self-defense overall. And now that we've narrowed it down to these, and the fact that we have so many dedicated students training through Gracie University online around the world, we have to make this information available on a larger scale. And that's why we're here today to discuss, okay? And when it comes to defending against multiple attackers, all you have to remember is DEA. Not the Drug Enforcement Agency, although shout out to my friends over there, they train, they keep it real on the highest level. DEA, diffuse, evade, and attack. Principle number 1, diffuse the combative energy of the interaction. It's fair to say that 99% of all fights, multiple or single, are from what? Ego or alcohol? Think hard now. Think really hard. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Really hard. When the homie comes up, or when the guy cuts you off in traffic, right, and you get out and you puff up, that's ego. The truth is you're totally safe. The truth is he's not threatening you. He's gone and life can go on and you can be totally fine. But your ego, when the guy says something to your girlfriend or slaps her on the butt as he walks by, I know, bro, but let's keep it real. See, this is why he had so many fights. Because until very recently, Brian wasn't present enough to really check his ego. So seeing that,
You still gotta do it though.
I know, bro, I know you have to. But the reality is, the way you diffuse a situation, right? The way you diffuse an interaction with one or more attackers is you have to understand this idea of the combative energy threshold. You have to prevent the combative energy from reaching the threshold. That's because let's be real. Me and Brian are here, right? And we're just talking about, what was for lunch yesterday. The combative threshold is not being reached. What happens is he says something that offends me. I take it personal. My ego gets blasted. So my ego gets puffy now, and now I gotta blast him somehow. And you have this battle of egos until what? The threshold is reached, the explosion happens, and then you have an all-out fight. Someone swings first and on it goes. That's how fights happen. So what you have to do is prevent the interaction from ever reaching this combative energy threshold where the explosion takes place. And let me tell you this, if every time someone cuts you off in traffic, or every time someone yells something at your girlfriend that they shouldn't be yelling, if that jeopardizes your true sense of self, you're in trouble. You're going to get into a lot of fights. Because that means that your self and your awareness of yourself is in the hands of other people. But it's not. It shouldn't be. And the most important thing to keep in mind when checking and trying to control this combative energy threshold is that what they're saying, what they're doing has nothing to do with you at all. This guy who just cut you off in traffic, lost his job, is on his way to the casino to gamble away the rest of his life. And he happens to cut you off. And now you're going to have to go chase him, honk at him, flip him the bird, pull over, puff your chest to get yourself back. Am I right?
Yeah.
People do it.
But I think even it takes just a look, Like they just mad dog you a little bit.
Just a little mad
Just a
dog.
little mad
And
dog.
that look will jeopardize yourself.
Then I look at you back.
And
You say what's up.
see?
Then I say what's up.
You know Brian's familiar with this process. Even the head tilt he practices. The
When I
point
tilt
is...
myself, I tilt the head sideways.
It's on. That's like, yo, you ready or you ready? So the bottom line is, as long as you're in their control, you're going to get into fights. Yeah. Our whole point is you have to check your ego. And you have to know that if his life is miserable and he says something or he yells something at your girlfriend, it's a reflection of them. It's a reflection of his troubled life circumstances and lack of proper education and influence. That's all it is when he does something or she does something. That's it. So with that mindset, you can be like Hedon and be like, oh, poor guy. He needs a girlfriend too who loves him and can treat him well and respect him and not cheat on him. Or poor guy, he just lost his job, and something happened at work or this, or he's going to go gamble. Hedon is the most present person I know, so you can't get to him no matter what you do. Tell me that multiple attackers are going to happen against him. No, unless they hate Gracie family and they have a predetermined path to come in here and beat Hedon up when he walks out to his car, there's not going to be a fight with multiple attackers against Hedon because he's too present and too self-aware. Okay? So that's the bottom line. Once you can check your ego and you can understand that it has nothing to do with you, know this, whenever something happens, if it does get to a point where it because sometimes she comes by and slaps the butt of your girlfriend and you're like, hey man, what's your problem? Have some respect, right? So now, you don't just say you say something. So it's suddenly a little bit of input to the combative energy, and now there's an altercation here, there's an interaction. So now they're in each other's faces. What you have to understand now, still in principle number 1, diffuse the combative energy. Brian has to know that, let's say I'm the attacker and he's the good guy. Every single thing Brian says and every inch he moves, every inch, either contributes to or detracts from the total sum of combative energy in the interaction. Does that make sense? Every single thing. Show us how you'd stand if you were basically ready to get down. Real great. Just like, okay, hands up is ridiculous. The fight's already on. Hands up. If he just blades his stance 45 degrees and starts to have his head a little bit relaxed and get his hands, even close his hands a little bit, each one of these, every single thing is a contribution to that threshold. And therefore, one step closer to the fight. Now here's the problem that they don't understand. When you're dealing with one person, the threshold is much higher. When you're dealing with 2, 3, 4, or 400 people, or 2,000, like my friend Steven Crowder in the crowd of union protesters, when you're dealing with more people, you have to understand this. The threshold is much easier to reach. So let's say we have 4 people. Put it this way. Each of those 4 people is contributing to the threshold, which means instead of contributing $1 each, me $1, you $1, with these 4 people, all they have to give is 25 cents each, and that makes their $1 and your $1. If you do anything, boom, it's on. So the point is, when it's one-on-one, it's much harder to reach that threshold, so the situation is a little more tolerable, a little more. I'm telling you, the guys who pulled over on the side of the road, if there was one of those gangster-looking fools who wanted to jump this guy, if there was one, and then one guy who with the red shirt, and they were in a park together, and they crossed paths on the jogging path, trust me, it wouldn't have jumped so quickly from either side. With more people, the threshold is reached faster. So what does this mean? With more people, you have to be so ridiculously aware and so intelligently communicative to make sure nothing goes down.
It's like the ego thing, you know?
Right.
Like if I got 3 of my boys, like I don't want to look like a punk now that I stepped up to you.
So you're ready to, any excuse you have, right?
Yes.
Any
Give me an
excuse.
excuse.
He's in. That's a great point.
Sometimes if you don't give me an excuse, I tell my buddies, yeah, you know what? Yeah, he's a punk, he's a lame.
Therefore, his ego got what he wanted, which is the feeling of superiority.
Yes.
You know that your ego is not determined by this punk and his buddies. So you're cool because your ego is in the Gracie Academy, training jiu-jitsu, learning, investing in yourself. You know who you are, irrelevant of the punks. So, but that's a great point that Brian's making. He, with his buddies there, he's looking for any excuse to jump the gun and to make it happen. So, how you communicate, guys. Put it this way, my best kind of way to explain this, when the punks are here, you have to assume they don't speak English. Assuming I don't speak English.
Okay.
How would you communicate with me non-verbally to tell me that you don't want to fight at all and you're no threat to me? And you know, well, for example, if you stand sideways, that's saying let's get down. Look at this, palms out, saying, hey, it's cool. Listen, or even take a step back, That's saying, what is it saying? I don't care what language it's in, from Japanese to freaking French to freaking Spanish. If he's backing up with his hands, hey guys, keep it real. This is him saying, hey, I'm cool.
Face too, right? Like that.
Yes, come on, man. Hey, no problems, no problem. Respect, my bad. And you have the ability to diffuse it like that, you're golden. So when in doubt, no English. Hey, my guys, I'm sorry. You can still be speaking, but trust that everything else, to communicate, you know this, communication is 80% nonverbal, meaning the effectiveness, when you tell your girlfriend, baby, I love you. You know what I'm talking about too, right? When you tell your girlfriend like that, it's different. But when you grab her and you pick her up and you spin her around and her feet bend and she's here and the wind is blowing, you know what I'm saying? And honey, I love you, I want to be with you the rest of my life. It's different. And you don't have to even say those words and she still gets it. Dang, I went deep into that analogy. Let's end on this note. If you get into a fight with one or multiple opponents and you win, you've defeated an external opponent. If you avoid a fight and go home safely, you've defeated the internal opponent, which is much more challenging and much more commendable. The truth is, it is easier, say this is interesting, it's easier to get crazy and get beat up than it is to go home and be like, yeah, you know,
damn, the truth is,
or they challenged me, they stepped up to me, but so if the fact that that's easier to say, yeah, fools, let's get down, pop, get all bloody, go to the hospital, that's easier, you know this from experience, than it is to go home and say, yeah, forget it, these fools, it's not worth my time, I got people to teach, I got people to influence, I got people who love me, I don't need the $25,000 hospital bill to put my face back together, you know what I'm saying? That's harder. So just in the simple fact of one easier, one harder, which one is more respectable or commendable or admirable? The harder one. It's a more difficult task. Respect. Principle number 2. Assuming you cannot diffuse the situation, diffuse the combative energy of the interaction, evade their attack with effective distance management. And if you've been following our videos for any length of time, you know that distance management is the most important thing in Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. Our ability to have defeated giants for 85 years, 3 generations, whole family members and otherwise who represent the art, has been almost entirely based on their understanding of how to use distance for their advantage against beasts. Meaning, if I'm going to fight with Brian, I want to be either all the way out or all the way in. right? Because if I'm all the way out, you can't reach me. And if I'm all the way in, this giant, his strikes are ineffective because I'm too close. And this applies standing, it applies on the ground. It's the same thing. Now here's the one curveball. When you have a single opponent, all the way out is safe, and all the way in is safe if you know the techniques of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. But if you have multiple opponents, you don't have two options. All the way in is not safe anymore. Okay? Meaning, if you're grappling with someone, or you're in a grapple, or you're on the ground, like we saw with our friend on the side of the freeway, as soon as one got connected with him, the other guy came from behind and was hitting him and was grabbing him, and they took him to the ground. It became a big mess. In other words, you can't, from close range, you can't manage the distance against more than one person. 2 is crazy. 3, almost impossible. More than that, it's crazy. So the point is, distance management. Against one opponent, you have 2 options, out or all the way in. Against multiple opponents, out, all the way out. So this is the deal. You want to evade. You want to, if you can't diffuse it with calm verbal and non-verbal language, if you can't diffuse it, you have to get out of the situation. Okay? Some examples of that, obviously, this is basically means run, be gone. And you can run so far that they can't reach you, because now you're at such a distance that even collectively, they can't reach you. The same way Brian's punch can't reach me if I'm out of range here, that's the same idea, but you're so far that 4, 5, 7, 15 people can't reach you at the same time. It doesn't matter. You're too far. And this could mean running for as far as you can run. It could mean turning a corner. Sometimes you're in an area or in a restroom or in a situation where you're just isolated from the crowd. And if you can just get to where people can help you, you know what I'm saying? And not to say that they always will, because this is crazy, right? The side of the freeway, the guy was getting his face punched in and people were filming.
Yeah. They don't know jiu-jitsu.
Dang, it's true. The guy who was watching did not have the skills, the jiu-jitsu confidence to engage and be of service. But what a tragedy it was. At least it got on film so we can learn from it and now recycle forward, and hopefully one of you guys will be saved from having watched that video. Luckily the guy lived, so he'll be fine. What's the moral of the story here? Manage the distance, stay all the way out, get to a place where someone can help you. If you can just get to a public view or a crowded area, more often than not, if you're going to get beat up, they'll break it up sooner. Okay? Or you're not going to get beat up because there's other people there who can assist you and help you. So evade at all costs. Okay? Now, Brian says, yo, Henry, sometimes, sometimes in order to get to this freedom, you have to hit him. Because maybe it's on this side of me. Maybe we got you like this. And if you just want to go and walk past me, I can block you. But if Brian can throw a flashbang to get past me this way, through the door, out to the public, he might have to hit me. You know what I'm saying? So, let's be very clear though. We don't want to hit this guy and run if you don't have to. You know what I'm saying? Because why? If you hit the person and you run, you have done what? Did you contribute to or detract from the combative energy sum, total? You definitely went past the threshold. The party is on. If the fight hadn't started until then, you just started the fight. So the point is, only strike to create the avenue of escape if it doesn't exist already. But if it does exist, you turn and you go straight there and you go full blast. Got it? Because if you hit me, aside from the fact that you hit that threshold, now you've given the attackers more impetus to go get you and make you pay for that punch. You're going to get chased for sure. And even if you get into a public view, the fact that you humiliated the leader of the pack here means that when they get you, even if people are watching, their egos have been so damaged that they have to hurt you. No matter, there could be cops watching, they're still going to want to beat you up because you blasted them. Got it? So don't strike unless it's absolutely necessary to get to your escape path. Clear? Principle number 2, evade their attack with effective distance management. What if it could not be diffused for reasons outside of your understanding? And what if there is no escape path? Maybe a confined space, or maybe it's just too overwhelming of an attack, who knows? Then we move on to principle number 3. Attack first and attack fast. Brian knows all about this one. Now, before Brian gets excited and starts showing all the secrets, listen, here's the bottom line. Principle number 3 is only to protect people, not egos. 10-4? Someone's safety, someone's physical being has to be in immediate and great jeopardy for you to decide that it's time to attack. Because when you attack, that physical being will continue to be in the same degree or even more danger than it already was. It's going to get worse. So, if it's just your ego that's being checked from the road rage or the girlfriend, if it's just that, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. There's no excuse. In other words, principle number 3 cannot be applied if it's an ego-based situation. For those, you have to diffuse, you have to evade, no exception. Now, provided someone's safety is in great jeopardy, and it gets to the point where it's kill or be killed, we need to talk about this. No doubt. No doubt. And there are several ideas that we want to discuss. First things first. If you know it's going to go down, how do you know? Before it actually goes down, how can you tell? How do you usually know?
Keep too close.
Well, you tried to defuse, right? Of course you tried. You said, hey guys, come on, man. All right, you guys, there's more of you. Obviously, I can't fight all of you guys. Come on, keep it real. We're cool, we're cool. You guys win. I want nothing to do with this. I'm out of here, I'm out of here. And you're backing up, but they're following you. Oh, dang. I'll be the bad guy. This is more likely, you know, because you're more hood, but I'm crazy. So the guy walks up, and he's putting his face in yours. So Brian's already backing up, very calm, very relaxed, and this guy is pursuing him. And talk about that bubble, you know what I'm saying? Because here's cool, it's like,
Here's cool. Here's not. Not even like here's not.
here's the line.
Like this is where I can knock you out.
Right.
That's it.
But if I
Come
get
in there,
you're asking for it, it's on. If he comes in, if after Brian attempts to defuse and evading is not possible, and they're not having it, meaning these guys have made up their mind that today this person will get beat up or die. And you can feel when they made up their mind on that.
Yeah.
Right? Haven't you ever talked to someone or negotiated, sometimes with your girlfriend or your princess, and you're talking to her, and you have all the logic in the world, and everything makes perfect sense, but she's still not having it? Well, that's time for principle number 3.
you attack her.
No. Listen, that's time for the idea, meaning you know that all negotiation logic has left the building, and at this point, it's really... That was a bad analogy, because you're not going to fight her at this point. But you guys get what I'm saying, just from a purely discussional standpoint. Dang it, we can edit that part out. So, come here. So now, the guy has crossed the line.
He's got the line right here.
And he's crossed the line in the diffusion opportunity. There's no chance that it gets diffused.
You gave him a chance.
You gave him a chance. You tried everything you could. You're backing up. Nothing could have been done more to diffuse, and he's still not having it. So now he crosses the line. Attack first and attack fast. Here's the deal. Let's just say, for discussion's sake, there are 2 people. Because that's 2 is already more than 1. 2 makes it twice as hard for you. Just for discussion. And this principle of 2 can be applied to 3, 4, as many more. Obviously, it gets exponentially harder with every person, but the idea is the same. First thing is, when Brian decides it's time to go, absolutely, he wants to strike this first person. And you want to strike first.
Also,
Tell me.
if there's like 1 or 2, I want to hit whoever's not looking.
Oh, I
I
see.
was like, yo, listen, man, listen.
Boom.
Look. Boom.
I see. Good idea. So if they're a little more circular and they're all stepping in right here.
Closer right here. If I hit you, I get knocked out.
I see. I see. So bottom line is this. You need to, if there's a couple people, and Brian's saying be smart who you choose first, but you have to put one of them on the defensive. Because when you pop him, he's recovering from this bloody lip or black eye or broken nose, and now he's recovering, he's shot for sure, which means now it's essentially a one-on-one for a quick second with the other person. There's no doubt. Now here at the Gracie Academy, we know that not everybody has the same ability to punch someone in the face and put them on their back, and knock them out. If you have great striking experience of stand-up arts, this would be the time that it would be very useful. The problem is, no matter how much experience you have, it's hard to knock somebody out. Professional boxers stand there for 12 rounds and go toe-to-toe and still don't get it. And so, again, this is where we disclaim the reliability of striking, but we also have to hype up the idea that if you can hit clean and get one clean shot, there's no doubt that however trained you are or aren't, that's better, because now at least they're dealing with that while you work with the second person. We are huge fans here at the Gracie Academy of the elbow strike, because it's much less chance that you break your hand. The elbow is too strong, and it brings such a core leverage of the whole body that if you can deliver that right to the tip of the chin, you can knock this first person out cold if you land it, especially if they're this close, and punching isn't even an option right now because it's so close. So from here, you can definitely make a nice elbow strike. Brian's relaxed, and then out of boom, it's gone. That person's going down. Okay, you hit him on the chin, it's over. So he connects with one. Now this person's on the defensive. Now you have the second person. Okay? Now remember, we always have to, at any chance, go back to previous principles because they're the safer ones. If that allowed Brian to evade, he's gone. Now with one person, he moves him out of the way and he's out of there. Best strategy possible. So you hit this first person. Now what are you thinking? You're backing out. Boom! He's creating distance now. Because if he commits, the problem is it's all about distance management. If Brian commits to one and he stays within range, the other person's going to grab him right away because he's coming or near. So what Brian wants to do is try to create distance to where there is this linear lockdown that we call it, where basically creating a line out of the attackers. So you hit this guy, and now Brian is backing up. So if there's a guy here, Brian doesn't want to be between us two. He would like to create a situation exactly where, look, so now he's back here, the other person is behind me, I'm recovering right here, and Brian can see everyone at the same time. It won't be perfect, but just have this understanding that the less spread you can create, the better. The more lockdown on the lineup you can create, the better. The more tightly grouped the subjects are, and what that means is Brian's going to be very elusive, moving around to keep everyone in the tightest range of vision, the tightest spectrum there.
And the reason you do that is because, even with lions attack,
right?
They don't all three attack. One goes first, then once that one gets a hold of you, then the rest jump in.
Boom!
So same thing, once I hit you, boom. Whoever comes up next, guess what? Kick, push, whatever, and I always got an eye on everyone.
Right.
So I can back up, 1, 2, hit, and keep backing up.
No doubt, no doubt. And so that's the idea. You want to avoid, of course, you want to avoid going to the ground at all costs.
Run.
You want to be gone. You want to stay on your feet. If you can hit them, you want to hit them. But ultimately, you want to be gone. The challenge is, even though this first hit you might get clean, we've all seen enough fighting, professional and otherwise, to know that the first hit maybe, because he's not expecting it, right? But the second hit is not going to be as easy. Meaning, the second person, the fight's on. So they're coming at you swinging, the hands are up. So for Brian to perfectly place the shot to put the second person down, it's so difficult. Not that he can't try, but I'm just saying, anybody out there, any striking-based art who's teaching, yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, anyone who's teaching that and that's their answer, they're lying to you. Because that 2 and 3 and 4 are going to be so difficult, it's ridiculous. So unlikely. So, what's the moral of the story? It's not saying you can't try to hit them and be effective. This definitely would be nice, especially if they're all drunk and their hands are down. You might hit them and cut him and now he goes down or he's just off balance or whatever. The problem is, assuming the second person comes at you swinging and with full energy, and you can't knock them out. Of course you want to keep distance, you don't want to get connected, but they're going to want to grab and control you. And we've shown, if anything the Gracie family has shown in 80 years, is that between two people, when one person's sole objective is to strike, and the other person's sole objective is to grab, who wins? The grabber. That's it. And if this multiple attackers know that just upon grabbing you, you're now in trouble, they're going to go for the grab. They want to control you because they know if they can get a hold of you, their homies can hit you on the ground or step on you or do whatever. So what I'm saying is, expect them to try to grab you, which means avoid being grabbed at all costs, evade as long as you can until help arrives, movement, clearance, striking, but more than anything, keep a good base and move around, keep the linear lockdown, and ultimately understand that it's going to be tough. And if they're probably going to grab you, it's almost like you can't prepare for multiple attackers without accepting the fact that you will get grabbed. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to put that in. And that's where the jiu-jitsu comes into place. Because once you get grabbed, if we're connected, the problem is, even though Brian is safely, like we saw Steven Crowder's situation in the crowd, he clinched the guy, right? He clinched, and then he disengaged, and he put his hands up. And suddenly, that diffused it. There was another guy who stepped in, but it diffused. He didn't hit the guy, which means he didn't escalate the combative energy in that interaction. He diffused the situation perfectly. Even though the guy hit him, and he could have easily gotten riled up and wanted to fight back, but he didn't. When he got hit, he clinched for protection, and then he slipped out and pushed away, and the fight was over. He put his hands up, no people jumped in, it became a single. All multiple attacker situations begin as a single attack, and when one guy starts getting attacked or grabbed or beat up, then the other ones, they mob in. Nobody mobbed in, even though they could have, these other workers, union workers, because Steven came out and showed, hey, I don't want to fight. He diffused it perfectly. But if Brian's connected with me right here, of course, if the second person is coming right now, he would love to use me as a shield between us to try to at least keep us between each other so that the other person's not hitting him in the face. He's using kind of the block.
Always block your chin too.
So this always block his chin down, everything's tight, and you're not getting knocked out. And you're trying to use this person as a shield. But let's assume that you did pop the first guy. So the second guy who grabs you, he's by himself, but he does have a good hold of you. At this point, if you can't hit him and incapacitate him with a strike because they're so determined to grab you, like we've seen in 85 years, what are we going to do? Takedown and immediate break. Okay? No chokes, no triangles. Takedown to again, the first guy's bloody lip and recovering over there. So at this point, Brian can use one of many takedowns, maybe a simple hip throw, maybe hit him here. He takes the guy down, boom, and he steps over. And here, how long do you wait to break the arm, Brian?
None.
Oh, you go right away?
Yeah.
So now, here's the thing, the chokes take time. Chokes take 6 seconds at least. And once you choke someone out, they're waking back up when you let go and you're getting kicked in the head by the other guy who's already recovered. So the point is this, don't go to the ground. You don't want to. But if you're grabbed and disengaging or striking is not an option, you have to find a way to incapacitate this guy before the other guy is back in the party. And what we're saying is a quick takedown, throw or takedown of some sort, and an immediate break of an arm puts that person out of the party. Of course, if you stay there, the possibility of getting kicked in the head by other attackers is possible. All we're saying is if you have to go to the ground, break fast and get back to your feet. And the more you invest in jiu-jitsu, the more you're capable of doing this. If I can choke out and break arms of purple belts in 30 seconds, I can break the arm of a random street brawler who knows nothing about distance management or joint submissions, joint locks, in 5 seconds. I'm very confident of that. Whether I end up on top or on the bottom.
Especially if they're drunk.
Especially if they're drunk and ridiculous. So, what's the moral of the story? Immediate takedown, immediate joint lock is the idea if you do end up on the ground. And then people say, well, no, you don't want to be on the ground. Well, guess what? If you go to the ground, like we saw for our friend on the side of the freeway, he didn't want to go to the ground. He got taken to the ground because one guy grabbed against his will, and the other guy, boom, and they went down. So the moral of the story is learn how to fight on the ground so you can get out of the ground fight at will. We teach police officers, and one of the key principles is learn how to fight on the ground so you don't have to fight on the ground. Because in other words, yeah, it's major. The same way you can drown in the ocean, like Hidon says, you can drown in a ground fight, or in any fight, particularly the ground fight. So if you get taken to the ground and you don't know jiu-jitsu, what are you going to do down there? Let's say you're the bad guy, you grab and you trip like we said, well, we saw what happens. Yeah. The homie laid down and was just kicking with his leg like this, and then the other guy came and boom! So he didn't even understand distance, how to use his legs to protect. This stage 5 punch blocks, anything, zero. So the point is, you're going to go to the ground if these guys are determined. And our point is, if that happens, you have to have the skills to stay safe and get back to your feet, which jiu-jitsu can give you. And you don't make up in the moment of. It's not going to just come to you out of nowhere. I guess the best way to say it is this. No doubt, you don't want to go to the ground, and no doubt you want to stay safe. Jiu-jitsu in a multiple attacker situation is like car insurance. When you rent a car, Hertz Rent-A-Car, Enterprise, you rent a car.
Did you say Enterprise?
No, not Enterprise, Enterprise. When you rent a car, the insurance, it's not important until you get taken to the ground, if you know what I mean. It's not important until you crash the car. Did you mean to crash the car? No. But when you did crash the car and you don't have the renter's insurance, what do you pay? $30,000 to repair the whole car out of your pocket.
Ouch.
Yeah, ouch is right. Versus paying $12 a day for the insurance. Invest in your Gracie Jiu-Jitsu because when the fight goes to the ground, multiple attacker against your will, which I can guarantee you that it will if they're determined to grab you. When the fight goes to the ground, break fast and get out and back to your feet. Both of which are not possible if you don't know Jiu-Jitsu. So to say Jiu-Jitsu isn't effective against multiple attackers, I understand where they're coming from. Jiu-Jitsu isn't effective against multiple attackers. The same way no martial art is. Tell me one. Name one. Kickboxing? Okay, now when you get put on the ground, now what? Kickbox your way out of that. No, you're going to get your face punched and kicked into the ground like a soccer ball. We saw that. What's the moral of the story? No art is effective against multiple attackers. Now, which arts are absolutely necessary for survival in this type of threat scenario, you already know. Yeah, it's nice to know how to throw a nice punch or kick standing up. There's no doubt you can invest in that. And if you have the strength and the athleticism, all the power to you. But if you don't, evade, stay away, and if that's not possible, you're probably going to the ground. And when you do, break fast and get out of the ground fight. So what did we learn? From the situation of the guys on the side of the road, we learned that this puffing up ego of the guy with the red shirt, he was communicating that he wanted to fight and that his ego was checked by whatever those other guys did to offend him. He communicated that non-verbally. Finally, it went down. He initiated it. He put his hands up. The fight went, and clearly it didn't pan out to his advantage. So we learned that no matter how much you want to stay standing and strike, even if they're smaller than you, they were half his size, they still got him to the ground and then kicked his head off. What did we learn from Mr. Crowder's encounter in the crowd? Is that even if someone hits you or grabs you or initiates the physical attack, as the union worker did against Stephen, you can still diffuse the situation with nonverbal, verbal communication and say, hey guys, sorry, and back up. And why was Stephen able to do that? Because he is so aware that, and so understanding that his sense of self is not determined by some irate worker's sucker punch to the face, that he didn't feel the need to go back and beat the guy up to build himself and to be himself. So because of that, he was able to avoid 10, 20, 30 or more people jumping him and trying to hurt him. And what's crazy in the video after that, you hear one of the union workers saying, I've killed many people with guns. And like he's just getting all crazy. Like they were actually crazy angry. It was really interesting. Anyways, moral of the story is it can be diffused. Stephen did it perfectly and we saw the results of that. Sun Tzu said it best. The supreme art of war is to subdue your enemy without fighting. Here at the Gracie Academy, we don't drink often, but when we do, we drink watermelon juice.
Stay thirsty, my friends.
Our grandfather's vision was to share the gift of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu with people all over the world. Thanks to global internet accessibility and the development of a revolutionary interactive online learning system, his dream came true, and his legacy will live on forever. Gracie University. Let us teach you everything he taught us.